all about the crochet. I'll put you in the know. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Jayda InStitches show.
Hey everybody, thanks for dropping by. If you're wondering how to find the end of a skein and that information isn't printed on the label, like it is on some brands, for example, Red Heart Super Saver has right on the label which side of the skein you should find the inside end and the outside end. That's really helpful information, but not all skeins of yarn have that information on the label. For example, very popular brands like the Caron Cake or the Bernat Pop do not. This particular Caron Cake that I have actually has the inside edge of the yarn poking out the top. Now I didn't pull this, I actually purchased this ball of yarn and the inside end was already poking out the top. So if you're someone who finds it frustrating to try and look for the inside end on a ball of yarn, then feel free to really go through the skeins on the shelves when you're shopping and see if any of them already have the inside end showing, because that will take a lot of time off your adventures of trying to find the inside end. Not all balls of yarn are spun the same way, however. I have another ball of a Caron Cake, which is exactly the same color, dye lot, everything as the previous one I just showed you, but the inside end is not readily visible. In fact, the entire top seems to be pushed in a little bit. So I thought, since we're all trying to figure out the most expedient way to unwind a ball of yarn from the inside out, it might be helpful to show you how I go about finding the inside end on a Caron Cake or a Bernat Pop when it's not readily visible. First, I take the cake or the pop or whatever short, squat little spun ball of yarn I have, and I go in the top. So if the label's facing upright, I go in the top and I wiggle around and I see if I can readily find an end. Sometimes it's just buried underneath the lip of the first few rounds of yarn. If it's not there, then I go a little more extreme. I put my finger down the very center of the ball and the other one up the center of the bottom until I can feel my fingers meet in the center. This might take a little digging around, but you want to feel your fingers actually meet. Then take your thumb and wiggle it down until you can pinch a piece of yarn right in the center and then very gently pull it out. You're going to get some of the inside of the ball of yarn, and that's perfectly all right. Here's what you do when this comes out to avoid getting knots. If you move it around a little bit, the inside end might actually become apparent. And here it is right here. Now that we have a smaller little ball of yarn to work with, the inside end, it sort of just reveals itself. But if it doesn't, you can just slowly start pulling the ball of yarn apart from the inside tail. If you have like the other end available, then start pulling that too. You're going to pull a little bit on one end and a little bit on the other, and you're going to try really hard not to tangle the ball up. This is how you avoid getting knots. So if you've got this sort of short tail, you can just hold on to the whole inside and gently pull it apart. And if you come across a little bit of a tangle, take the other side and just slowly pull on that one. You don't want your ends to cross. Just slowly and gently pull it apart. Once you've got that entire little ball untangled, start pulling it all to one side until you've arrived back at the last little bit that's come out of the center of your cake. If you're about to start crocheting or knitting, go ahead, grab the yarn and just start going. But if you want to put this away for later, this is how I roll it back up. I take one hand with the tail in the other, and I very slowly start to roll it, wrap it around my fingers in a nice loose wrap it. So I don't want my fingers tight together, I want to make a nice loose wrap, and this will help keep all of the tangles out of my newly unwound ball of yarn. Once you have a few inches of the tail remaining, leave them there. Carefully slide the wrapped yarn off of your fingers, and then you're going to tuck it back into the center of the ball once and twice. Leave it. When you go to use this ball of yarn next, you can gently pull out the end that you wrapped and slowly take it apart from there as you work. This will alleviate any knots or tangles when you start to work with your ball of yarn. So there you go. If the information on finding the ends is not on the label of yarn and the inside end isn't readily visible while you're yarn shopping, then that's how I go about finding the inside end with the least amount of knotting and natting possible. I hope you found that helpful. And a big special thank you to everyone who has recently popped over to our website and left us a tip in our tip jar. We really appreciate your support of us here at the Jayda InStitches show. Thank you very much. And that's it. We will see you soon on the Jayda InStitches show. In fact, we will see you Friday. Until then, stay safe, stay crafty, and have an awesome week, everybody. Bye.